Hey guys, it's GlueStickFX. I'm back with another video tutorial, and this time you can see I'm actually not just a floating pair of hands and a disembodied voice. I am a whole person, which, you know, I work retail, so quite frequently I'm not. You got lucky. The reason why I'm all on camera like this and fancy is that I'm going to be doing a face injury today because dun, da, 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 I just got a new shipment of blood in. Now my old blood, as you might have noticed from the hand lacerations video and anything I've been posting on Instagram, was pretty denatured with time. It had discolored, the viscosity had gone, it was like 5 or 6 years old, but I found the same company on Amazon and I managed to get some new stuff that is super thick. I color corrected it with a little bit of blue food coloring, but I want to give it a try today and possibly mess up everything because this is right after my Tuesday at work. So if this stains my skin, I'm sort of fucked for the rest of the work week. But anyway, I'll show you how to do an exposed flesh injury on the face today, which is a really fun one to do because face injuries make a lot of blood. So let's get right to it. So for the look that we're doing today, it's actually pretty simple because it doesn't involve any discoloration of the skin or bruising. So you don't need to bring in contours, multiple foundations, eyeshadows, face paints, anything like that. So what you're gonna need to build this injury, I like to start with an eyeliner or a lip pencil. I used to have a red lip pencil. It went missing somewhere in between Australia and Canada. So I'm using a black eyeliner today. Any skin-safe pencil or marking utensil will work. You could use a ballpoint pen because those are safe-ish, but that all depends on how committed you are to the look. After that, you're going to want PVA or white glue. This is Elmer's tacky glue. I don't actually know how it differs from the white glue, other than this is supposed to be more flexible, which actually works well for what we're doing today. Any skin-safe, non-toxic glue, water-based, because otherwise it's probably gonna hurt your skin. If you have sensitive skin or you don't know if you have sensitive skin, do a test swatch first. If it starts to burn or itch or feels in any way other than just like you've painted something on your skin, take it off immediately. I have injured myself before by not testing products. You're going to need some toilet paper, tissue paper, or Kleenex. This is to provide texturing where the underlayer of skin is exposed. And then I like to apply that with tweezers. You can just use your fingers. It's just a little easier to get into corners and stuff and to rip it irregularly so that it doesn't look like you just cut up a piece of paper. You'll need your glue for building the edges of the wound. You'll need some lipstick in order to put the color in there. I have this sort of blood red-ish shade. I used to have one that was a bit nicer and more expensive that I stole from my mom, but I used it all on other injuries. So now we have this Australian dollar store one. Foundation and a sponge to apply it with. I'm not sure if this foundation matches my skin tone. You're gonna cover it all in blood anyway, so as long as it's like close enough, you're probably fine. And speaking of blood, you will need your fake blood. I'll link to this in the description below. Just know that this company, you get a ton for very cheap, which does mean that the quality tends to vary a lot from batch to batch. I've not really had many issues with the texture of it, but it will stain. It doesn't stain my skin too much, but it will stain any clothes or surfaces it gets on, and it tends to come in like a bright cherry red. But you can counteract that with 1 or 2 drops of blue food coloring. And then beyond that, you're just gonna need a couple of brushes in order to finish out your look. I have my toothbrush for blood splattering, which is my favorite part of any look. I have a somewhat short, slightly soft bristled brush. It's not like super soft. This one I've cut slightly on an angle. and that one I just use for brushing in blood. I have sharpened the other side of it for if I have to get really into a corner of a wound, but I've never really had to do that much. And then this one is a super short, super stiff bristled brush. I use it for going in with the lipstick on top of the tissue paper in order to texture the wound even more. You will also need a sculpting tool. If I knew where to find one of these, I would put a link to it in the description. It was donated to me by a friend. So this is the best sculpting tool I've ever found. Anything you use works just fine. You are also going to need, of course, a face to put this injury on. Either your own or someone else's. Just make sure you've tested all the materials you're going to use before you apply them. I don't put on any other makeup for these injuries. One, I'm not very good at it, and two, I find it doesn't really work with my style to have like the nicely done up foundation and everything. You can see I've got blemishes. I worked this morning. It's not my style to pretty up the rest of me and then just throw an injury on top of it. But a lot of people do that. A lot of people pull it off very well. So it's up to you, as long as you've got a face and where you're putting the injury is clean so that the glue can adhere properly, then you're good to go. And now onto the actual look. Okay, so step number one, you're gonna wanna go in and trace out where your injury is going. So for me, I'm gonna put it somewhere up here. I don't think I wanna do too much, but I think something like that is gonna be pretty good. Oops. So all up inside is going to be where we have the exposed flesh. The black ring is going to be where I'm putting the glue to actually build this piece. Once you have your area mapped out, you can actually go right in with your glue. I'm going to use my blood paintbrush just to apply this. So just go in with a nice thin layer. And this is super duper difficult for me because I'm using my TV as a monitor readout for my camera, and it is a mirrored image. So this is like a brain teaser for me right now. Okay, so once you have a nice thin-ish layer of glue applied, yours might be even thinner if you aren't using like a tacky craft glue. Take your tissue paper. I'm using toilet paper because I don't actually own Kleenex, which is what I usually use. You're gonna remove it from itself so that it's only one ply if it is a 2-ply product. If you're using tissue paper that you'd use for wrapping gifts, it should already be 1 ply, I believe. Just make sure it is. And then just rip it up. You're gonna want all uneven sides on any pieces that you're applying. Any straight edges are gonna look pretty obvious, but I mean, tearing up paper is fun enough. Then I like to use my tweezers to pull off little strips of it. Probably about half that length. Something like that, just a nice little piece of paper. And you just go in, just apply it to the wound, like that. Man, this would be a lot easier if I had like a handheld mirror I could just be looking in right now. We'll see if I can find one after this step. It's a learning process. Oh God. Okay, so I did actually resort to pulling out my phone there because I could not fucking see what I was doing. The mirroring is way too hard. What I'm gonna do here is I'm actually gonna go back in with my tacky glue again, just because mine is a bit thicker, so it hasn't soaked through the tissue paper. And usually I like it to soak through so that it actually gets some uneven texturing and stuff. So So now that you've done that, what you get to do is the super exciting task of waiting for that tacky glue to dry. And now that you've started to apply glue to your face, you have to try to not do what I was doing there, which is any wrinkling or creasing in the affected area. Any of that is going to mess up the adherence of the glue to the skin. It will make it more obvious that it's a fake injury. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you, I'm too lazy to wait. I used to back when I had nothing else to do, but nowadays waiting is the worst part of my day. So, I have a hair dryer, which I know is funny considering my hair situation, but this is great for curing glue. So, if you are like me and you are too lazy or too impatient, or you have things to do, just go ahead and fire this bad boy up. Okay, so as you can see, once the tacky glue dries, it turns clear. There are some not clear spots, because even with the hairdryer, I got super fucking impatient. I have also grabbed a mirror, so that's probably gonna help me a bit with this. So the next step is going to be to basically trace the black line you've made, or red, or whatever color you used, with your glue. So that's going to create the boundaries for your injury. Now, skin isn't too deep on the forehead. There's not a whole lot of subfascia and fat, so you don't want to have too much glue buildup, because it's just not realistic that an injury is going to be cut super deep. Now, your skin will swell when it gets torn open, like in this look we're creating here. So some expansion, some outwards depth is not bad, but don't go too crazy, because if you do like a centimeter deep, that's just not realistic. And I mean, I don't really care much for realism, but it's going to look cartoonish, which in the end isn't exactly what we're going for here. So next you're going to use your sculpting tool, and you're going to smooth the outer edges down to your skin, but leave the upper edges, or the inner edges, flipped up. Because that is where the trauma occurred, and that is where you peeled back your skin in whatever horrific accident occurred to you. For this injury, let's be real, it would probably be me walking into a wall at work, because they make me work until 8:30 p.m. one day and then 6 a.m. the next morning. And no one's awake after that. Alright, so now we have smoothed down outer edges, and raised up inner edges. Hopefully the camera picks up on that. You can see on a side profile that there is actual depth to the wound. And the next step is once again to wait for that to dry a bit. Because right now it's going to be super sticky. You want it to be smoother and just a little bit tacky, because otherwise when you apply the foundation it's not actually going to apply to the glue. The glue is going to go onto the sponge, which is not the desired end result. So, more waiting. So once your glue injury has dried enough that you can sort of very lightly run your finger along it without it leaving tacky glue on your fingers, you are ready to apply your foundation. Now, as I've pointed out in I believe every video I've done, I am not good at applying foundation. I'm not good at any traditional makeup techniques. I just go for it. So if you have tips and tricks, you are welcome to share them. I probably won't use them, but I do appreciate the thought. And if you're looking for advice on like how to apply the foundation evenly and have it blend out to your skin tone, there are a lot of really, really great makeup artists and beauty gurus on YouTube who have a lot of tutorials on that, and they can probably help you way, way more than I can. So, as you can see, it's not great. It's not fantastic. I probably should have gone a bit further out with the glue. I probably should use better foundation. But this is not about teaching you how to make the 100% perfect wound. This is about me trying out my new blood and maybe showing you something in the process. Now luckily, at this point, we actually don't have to wait anymore. We can just keep going with the injury, which makes me really hope this is in focus unlike the last step, because otherwise you're getting a lot of out of focus instructions. So what I like to do after the foundation comes the red lipstick, dark red preferably, and the short stiff bristle brush. Sometimes I will actually blend this with black lipstick as well, but I've lost that too. So we're just winging it. Now I just scrape up some lipstick on the brush and then small dabs to apply to here. And I promise you, I will never actually dab on this channel because one, that meme is several years old and I'm nothing if not hip with the youths, and two, that would be painful for all of us, and I'd probably break something. And I don't have the money to replace things if I break them, let's be real. We're millennials here. There's a reason why I make fake wounds with glue sticks. And as you can see, as you layer that in, it creates an illusory depth and texture to the wound, which will mostly get covered up by the fake blood. But it looks sort of cool while you're doing it. So, and this is also where I would go in, you can see where the white tissue is showing through. I would leave some of that and I'd go in underneath it and adjacent to it with little bits of black to create texture, depth, like swelling and stuff. As you can see at this point, if the foundation work was better and I hadn't used a black liner, this actually wouldn't be bad for a dry wound. If you were a old corpse or a non-juicy zombie, you can do wounds like this. Now they don't look too convincing up close, but none of this stuff really does. So Just go with it, own it. Live your best life. Now next, we get to do blood, which means we're using my fake blood, my 16 ounces of fake blood, which is 500 milliliters, half a liter of fake blood. I probably should have grabbed a small container for this, but I didn't. So I'm just gonna be taking my softer paintbrush and dunking it directly in the bottle. I'm not gonna do that on camera because my couch is light gray, and if I do that on camera, I can almost guarantee you I'm gonna spill blood all over my nice couch that I also can't afford to replace if I ruin it. Gonna pick up nice, generous amounts of blood. And as you can see, this stuff that I got is super thick. Especially if you're photographing wounds, thicker blood is better because thinner blood is going to be hard to keep in place for multiple photos. I take probably about 9 to 15 photos for any one injury, which means that if I have thin blood, it's probably dried up by the time I'm hitting the last photo, and that doesn't really work. So I'm probably gonna call it about there for that blood application. Also, blood in the eyebrow always looks fucking good. If you're doing any forehead injuries, blood in the eyebrow looks super gross, makes people super uncomfortable, and in the end, isn't that what we're trying to do here? So I've thinned out the blood a little bit. Hopefully this is gonna work a bit better now. I'm gonna just go in, and yeah. That's the good shit right there. Close your eye if you're spraying near your eye. Don't get fake blood in your eyes. You'll regret it. Unless, of course, you have fake blood that is safe for mucous membranes, which I don't know if that exists. It might. I'm sure it does for movies and such, but chances are if you're watching my YouTube videos, you're not buying that sort of stuff. So there we go. Here is an injury with my new fake blood, and also an example of texturing and open sore wounds. You can see this is what happens when you spray with the toothbrush. So all in all, I think my new blood's looking pretty good. I might darken a few small batches of it just so that I can go in with a couple of different colors or something like that. But you know, it's pretty good for the price that you pay for it. It remains to be seen if it stains my skin after I wash it off. If it does, I will probably be posting that on my Instagram. So if you enjoyed this look or you found this video helpful at all, please drop a like, drop a comment if you have any ideas you'd like to see in future videos. I have a whole list of ideas that I've come up with basically based off of my Instagram, but if anyone has any requests, I'm more than happy to drop those up in the line. If you want to see more stuff that I'm doing, feel free to subscribe. I believe there's something about a bell icon, which I've only ever heard other YouTubers say. I'm gonna be honest, I don't actually understand YouTube. So I hope you enjoyed my video. I hope you enjoyed this look. If you give it a try, hit me up with a picture. I would love to see it. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.